Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope that you're doing well. Today I wanted to talk about audio and more specifically fades in audio. So that way you can clean it up a little bit, make it sound a little bit better and more natural. So let's go ahead and take a look into that. So sometimes when you're cutting your audio, you might hear a weird click or a pop or something, and that could be like maybe the waveforms going out of phase and stuff like that, and it could create this weird sound, and that's not something that's really pleasing to the ear. So we're going to take a look into fades and seeing how that can help, mix it together. Now, usually if you have two clips together, you're going to use a crossfade. So that's going to take a little bit of the audio from the previous clip and a little bit of the audio from the next clip, and it's going to just fade them together. Now, usually you want that fade to be maybe short if it's like a dialogue thing, or maybe you need it longer if it's like a music type thing. And that just kind of depends on what it's going to sound like, and you need to use your ears to know what sounds right. Now, I usually use about 5, maybe 3 frames just to fade the audio out. It doesn't have to be a big long fade unless maybe you're doing music or something, or maybe it's just the effect that you need to do. Like maybe there's somebody talking and then it just kind of fades out because they just keep talking and then just never stop. So now I'm going to show you how to do this inside of Adobe Premiere because that's just what I use. You can use Audition, you can use Pro Tools. So it's just an all-around good tip to use for whatever software you're using. So inside of Adobe Premiere here, I have 2 clips going and I want them to cut together, but maybe I might get a pop sound or a click sound. Let's see what it sounds like. So sometimes when you're cutting your audio and your video together, it flows together pretty nicely and you don't notice anything. But every now and then you might hear this weird click or a pop. Together, it flows together pretty nicely. Together, it flows together. Together, it flows together pretty nicely. Together, it flows together pretty nicely. Video together, it flows together pretty nicely, and you. So sometimes when you're cutting your audio and your video together, it flows together pretty nicely and you don't notice anything. So sometimes when you're cutting your audio and your video together, it flows together pretty nicely and you don't notice anything. So I'm going to add a crossfade here, and what that's going to do is it's going to like help blend them together so it sounds a little bit more natural. Now, like I said, I like to use short fades here. In fact, I want to show you something here. You can set the default fade transition, so you can always like right click and add a fade transition, or you can hit whatever hotkey you have as your fade transition. But inside of your preferences here, if you go to timeline, you'll have this audio default transition. You can change that number to whatever you like. I like mine around 5 frames. It just depends on what you like. The shorter, the better, I think. Because if you have a fade too long, that's more of like a creative type thing. Like, you need it to fade out longer or something like that. And you never know like how many frames you need it to be. So 5 frames for me is more like, oh, I need to just kind of cut these 2 things together so it just rolls together nicely. Or like maybe cut it at the beginning of the clip or the end of the clip so it just, fades off and or fades up really nicely. So inside of Adobe Premiere here, like I said, we have our 2 clips. I actually want to show you another thing. So I'm going to select both of my clips here, and I'm going to actually hit my default key for my audio transitions. And what that's going to do is it's going to add a fade at the front of this clip and a fade at the back of this clip so they roll in nice and roll out nice. And then it's also going to add that crossfade here in between the clips. And so if I did have a click here or a pop here, it's just going to blend it together and so it doesn't have that pop sound. Now maybe you might need to adjust it a little bit, maybe make it a little bit longer, or maybe it can be even shorter if you need it to be. Usually 5 frames is okay though. So let's talk about fades like in a creative way. So usually this has to do with maybe music or something like that. And usually you want to find like a spot in the music where it naturally flows out. And maybe then it kicks back up or something. But we're going to fade that out as well. So we're going to cut the music here, and because this is like a natural like fade out, and then we're going to apply our own fade to it. So then it just kind of flows out more natural, I guess. and that way, you know, nobody knows that there's like another part of the song unless they've heard that song before. But it just sounds a little bit more natural. Now, another thing that people might do is maybe there's just not a good spot for it to fade out. And usually those spots are like maybe at the end of the song, but that's not the spot that you want to use. So some people will just let the song play out and then they'll apply like maybe a really long fade, like maybe 5 seconds or something like that, and it will just like slowly fade out. And sometimes they just do that in songs in general, like on, if you still get CDs, you probably get MP3s, but you know, like back in the day, like some of the bands that I used to listen to, like they'd have like these really long drawn out parts at the end of the song and it would just fade out, and you know, it was still cool. Like, and maybe that's what you're going for, but you know, those are more like of a creative type fade because you don't know how long that fade needs to be, and you can't set a default transition for however long you think it's going to be because it might not be right. So that's why I say when you set your default transition, just try to make it short because that's basically what you're going to use it for, is something to kind of roll things together or smooth things out. And so hopefully this helped you guys and, you know, improving your audio. I know audio can be a little tough because there's so many different things that you can do with it. And to begin with, you actually have to record good audio. So sometimes the cameras don't record the best audio, and that's why we have all these microphones and different things. Like I'm using this microphone right here. You probably heard something weird, but anyway, and that's why I'm using this microphone and an external recorder, so I can get a little bit better audio than what my Blackmagic Cinema camera is going to get, because there's a giant fan on that camera, and that's basically most of what you hear. I mean, you're still going to hear me, but it's not going to sound as good. In fact, I'll play you a clip of it right now. And so this is the audio from the Blackmagic Cinema camera. Like I said, you're going to hear that fan sound, so it's not the best. Well, thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope that this helped. I know that this is like more of an audio type thing, and sometimes people get a little confused with audio or they just don't understand it, but this will help make your audio sound a little bit better in your videos, and I think it's just a good all-around tip. But thanks again for watching. Hit the like button if you did like the video, subscribe if you want to, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.